then it's a really good idea that you only have 3 vehicles in the sighting, because it just makes it that much more private, that much more exclusive, and that much more intimate. So 2 reasons, for the animals and for the people. And there you can see many of them looking. They've turned around to look at Aubrey, who's trying to get into the sighting. Well, Cameron, you're 6 years old in Ohio, and I'm sure you were 5 at one stage. In fact, you must have been, but I think that you were 5 the last time I spoke to you. So if you have just had a birthday, I hope it was a good one. Cameron, very good question. You say, do they sometimes get hurt when they play with each other, like kids do? They do, you know, and we're not really sure how that one that we were speaking about earlier, there's a little cub in the other litter, and she's very badly injured. We're not really sure why, but it could have been from playing, but most likely it was from fighting. Maybe one of the males hit it, or maybe one of the females hit it, or she got caught in a fight when they were feeding on a buffalo. So sometimes they get injured, but they don't get injured badly playing. But the adults, you see how much bigger the adults are, and they're often not that friendly to the little cubs, especially if there's food. She was stuck there on that Sisyphus bush. Look at the light starting to soften. You can see it changing angles now and just touching the sand here. We have been so lucky to have this to ourselves. I've got to tell you, everyone, this is very rare. The chap who was trying to get into the sighting is still trying to get in here. I don't know what it is about a lion cub, but you can look at its face, especially if it's yawning and messing around like these are, forever and ever. Especially if they start making those noises. Hello, Timo. Timo, we were talking about the cuteness of lions and whether you could pick them up, and you want to know about their teeth and when they get their first set. Well, they're born with their first set, Timo. Well, almost. After a few weeks they'll have, just like a puppy, after a few weeks they will have a full set of teeth, and they have 2 sets of teeth in their life, Timo. Like most cats or most mammals, they have milk teeth and they have their permanent teeth. Isn't that fantastic? It's just a great big carpet of lions, little baby lions. There will now be great squealing in the final control from Geraldine Cheesecake Kent, who is unable to look at lions without squealing. I understand what she means. I've had to control myself. Right, we're going to sit here for a little bit longer, try and get those other people into the sighting. Jamie has got an owl.
I have to tell you, I'm most impressed with my ability or the spot that I managed to pull off in this particular scenario. Have you managed to see this owl yet? Can you see it there? It's there. It's on your screen. I'm not telling you where it is yet. Oh, it moved. It gave itself away. Did you see it? Have you spotted it yet? We've got a lovely little, what looks like a pearl-spotted owlet sitting in the tree. Actually, what made me look in that direction was I heard it whistle, and then I just saw a little bit of movement. Look there, the eyes on the back of its head. looking around. Where is this threat to my integrity? There's others calling somewhere off in the distance. Might actually be drongos. But how amazing is that owl's camouflage? It is absolutely astounding. And I mean, if we were to, I'm scared to ask them to zoom out in case we lose it again. It took us a considerable period of time to find it. There, look at that. Right. Where's the owl, everybody? It's amazing. I'm looking for something. Just bear with me one moment. I'm looking in my book to show you the difference between two little owls that are very, very easy to confuse. So just bear with me one moment. We can do a little bit of a lesson on identifying the different types of owl. I'm relatively certain that this is a pearl-spotted owlet, although it's so far away, but every now and again it turns its head and it gives us a really nice glimpse of the distinctive feature that it has evolved that differentiates it from another species of owl called a barred owlet. And as it turns, no, don't look at us, I want you to turn the other way. This is one of my favorite owl species because they always look so incredibly disapproving. I've lost it now, where's it gone? I've lost it.
I think it left.
Did it leave? Okay, now I thought I was going crazy. I took my eyes off it for 1 second. Oh right, it did fly away, okay. That's how confused I was, or how difficult it was to spot. Anyway, so what I wanted to talk to you a little bit about was this is the pearl-spotted owl. So this is the tiny little owl that we're talking about and we were watching there. It is less than 20 centimeters in height, which makes it, what's that? Less than about 6 inches or so. The barred owlet looks very, very similar, but the difference is if you look here along the barring on the chest, and then what I was talking about before, if it turns its head, you might have got to see it. These two distinctive eye-like patterns on the back of the head, basically like the trick that they've been trying with the cattle and painting eyes on the back of cattle to deter lions. It's something similar, or a moth eye pattern or a butterfly eye pattern. It's kind of an intimidation factor. So those are our two smallest owl species, very easy to confuse unless you're paying close attention. The barred owlet has more white on its belly. I'm making my way towards a different sighting, since we haven't had much luck with Tingana. I'm going somewhere else. So while we trundle off there, let's go back to James and his lions.
Go ahead.
Yeah, no, we couldn't find how you got in there. So we're just waiting here.
Sorry about that. I think probably best for that vast vehicle of yours. I'm not sure you would have got it in here. Everybody, welcome back to the lion sighting, where the cubs are now doing what they've been doing for much of the afternoon, having a bit of a suckle. This is just very delightful. I've said that about 786 times today. It's difficult to know what else to say. Hello, Hannah. You're just 9 years old and you're in Johannesburg. We're starting to hear quite a lot from you of late. That's great stuff, Hannah. You want to know about what it is when an adult lion is known as, or when a baby lion is known as an adult lion. Hannah, only when they're about 2 years old. So up until then, they're considered what we call juveniles, and I suppose they'd stop being called cubs after about a year. Then they'd be youngsters or juveniles, and then when they're about 2.5 years, you'd consider them adult. You'd still consider that's because they're ready, they could have their own babies when they're 2.5 years old. The males, though, I guess because they are well, they take a bit longer, just like boys take a bit longer to grow up. So the male lions also take a little bit longer to grow up. And you would probably not consider a 2.5-year-old male an adult, maybe when he's about 3 or 3.5. But a 2.5-year-old female lion is very much like, say, a 15-year-old female human being. And that's, of course, in history, that would have been considered an adult. It's not an adult now. It's still, thankfully, you're still a kid if you're 15 years old. And then I guess a male lion of about 4.5 years old would be like an 18-year-old male human being. Does that make sense? Everyone else around the sighting's having to move around so that they can see it from the other side. Brian, I'm starting to think we were extremely clever to get in here. Don't you think we were?
I do.
Very, very clever of us. She's got an issue with her foot there. She keeps licking it. She's also got that little injury on her shoulder. And I wonder if there isn't some... Maybe she got injured hunting last night or something like that. Now let's just try and pick out... I mean, it would be nice... It's almost impossible to identify these cubs one from the other at the moment. And yet, two of them seem to be substantially hungrier than the others. Is that perhaps because one of them is... Maybe there is a sort of dominance hierarchy. There shouldn't be, or there isn't sort of a textbook dominance hierarchy, but maybe there's a little bit of a one. Cubs everywhere you look. Oh, sneezy. Oh, look. Oh, isn't that sweet? That's what we want. There we go. With Mum. And on top of Mum. Now that's that little... Remember I mentioned where I thought she had a bit of a skin problem? And I think that's there you can see that kind of... Looks like the same kind of skin trouble that one Birmingham male had. But seems to be fine. I'm sure it'll probably spread a little bit like that male's did, but then that male's skin disease did go away. Ah, there we are. And the one is tempted to say, well, while the plebeians struggle to get a view of our wonderful sighting, we sit here like Lord Brian Muck and Lord Jim Muck, perfectly perched, alone, viewing our lions. Ah, now Jesse, you perhaps a cat owner yourself. You say, do lions have scratching posts like domestic cats do? They do actually. I'm not sure to keep their claws short so much as to keep them sharp. And they've got trees. They use trees all the time. And we found one. In fact, I found two on the last 2 walks I did. I think both with Brian, we found where lions had been scratching on a tree. And you can definitely see where those razor-like, sharp, long claws have torn the bark off. They do that a lot. If you see them just getting moving, they will often leap up into a tree and scratch away at the bark. Oh, look at that. So very difficult, of course, to try and identify the difference between these two. You can do it. If you see the whisker marks there, if you are able to take a picture and count them, then you can tell them one from the other. But of course, if you're just looking at them like we're looking at them, it's almost impossible. Now Lillian, this is an astute question you've asked, because you haven't asked why it is that she isn't attacking us. You've asked why she is not afraid of us. You're a new viewer. It's lovely to have you with us. Please try and tell us where you're from next time you ask a question. It's always so nice to know. And sorry, the radio again has gone crazy in my ear. Let me just gather my thoughts, Lillian. Lillian, you say, why is she not afraid of the human presence? It's because she doesn't, I don't want to say she doesn't know that we're human, but she doesn't perceive us as a threat. We're not on foot. If we got out of the car, Lillian, she would almost certainly go from what she is now, relaxed and lying in the cool sand, to viciously terrifying. Because she's got cubs here, she wouldn't be able to move away. She'd feel cornered and she'd almost certainly charge. Because we're in a vehicle and we don't exactly know why it is that lions don't, and all the animals don't react to us in the same way in the vehicle. They've got good eyes, they've got good noses, they certainly smell human being when they're around cars, but they don't perceive us in the same way. They don't perceive us as a threat in the vehicles. And it's very, very interesting, because as a friend of mine said to me once, he said, you know, a lion or a leopard is able to spot a monkey by its ear. You know, at sort of 200 meters, it'll see a monkey's ear behind a tree. You can't tell me that when they look at our faces, they don't know that we're human beings or don't recognize us for human beings. But because we're not bipedal, we're in these big vehicles, they don't associate us with a threat. And I think that's why she's not afraid of us. You can hear some elephants shouting, possibly at Buffelshoek Dam, which is not far from here. Michael, you're interested in those spots again, and they are very interesting. You say, when will they disappear? Michael, they'll start to fade round about now, those obvious spots. They'll start to fade as they start to move with the pride, and by about a year old, they'll be gone. But like you say, some of them do retain them, especially on the underside of the legs. Now, Brian, if you don't mind, if you just tilt up a little, you'll see the lioness's back leg there still retains some of that spotting. So some of them retain it into adulthood, some have almost no spots in adulthood, but the ones on the head will almost certainly disappear by the time they're a year old, maybe even before. I think that one's fallen asleep on the boob, as it were. It's quite interesting. I've just heard on the radio Aubrey saying that there are a lot of vultures not too far from here. And I wonder if she didn't kill something there. Or there might be the rest of the pride there. That would be fascinating. He's going to go and have a look on foot, Aubrey. I was reading a tragic story today about a kid who committed suicide, unfortunately, because of bullying at school. And Debbie, it's obviously a very serious problem amongst all mammal species. You say, will these cubs experience bullying from the older cubs in the pride? Absolutely they will, completely. And sometimes, you know, if there are Say there are 8 or 9 bigger cubs within a pride. When much younger cubs join the pride, say they're 3 or 4 months younger, sometimes they can be outcompeted completely and they'll die. So yes, bullying absolutely takes place. It seems to be a fairly universal mammal trait, actually. It happens in the elephants, except in the elephants the mothers don't tolerate it. They will bash any of the bulls who try and bully the other ones, but it definitely happens, and especially amongst male cubs and male mammals generally, as they try and exert some form of sort of testosterone-fueled dominance. There often is this kind of a bullying situation. It's an unattractive trait of mammals. There, Brian, that's a female there. Go down a little, that's it. So we've got one female at least. The other one, can't really tell there. Hang on a second there. Let's have a look. You can get closer with the camera there, Brian. Is that as close in there as you can get? Please excuse this shot, everyone. I think that's a female as well. I think that's 2 girls. What do you think, Brian? That's definitely a female. Yeah, I'm not so sure either. Yeah, in fact, no, hang on. That's the bottom there that we can see. So that's a male. That's definitely the beginnings of his scrotum. So that's a male. So we've got 1 male, 1 female. Brilliant stuff. The other one, I'm not so sure, obviously. Can't tell from the face. For example, it's pink. She's quite a young one, I think. That tells youngish. It tells me that she's probably about 3 years old, 3.5 years old or so. And lions, normally by the time they're 6, their noses are completely black. But yeah, these ones seem to have been born with black noses. I'm just slightly distressed, Jean, that I have obviously never noticed that before. It's bizarre. Let me just quickly check my camera here. Yes, they most certainly are black noses, aren't they? Huh. Black noses indeed, Jean. Now, everybody, we're going to sit here for a little bit longer, but while we wait and see what transpires at this unbelievable sighting, Jamie is with another mother, the Great Queen. Enjoy.
The Great Queen indeed, and she is on the move. I'm sorry for my extended absence, but I had to come racing through from Arathusa all the way to the other side of Djuma to follow up on our lovely female leopard, Karula. I'm just trying to figure out where she's going to go. She's taken us into a really tricky position, into a drainage system that runs close to Gowrie Main. So we're going to try and get past one of the other vehicles and then have a look at her from the other side. Hello everybody. And there she's off. And she was sitting very regally on the top of the log. No cubs with her that we can see. It looks as though she's on the hunt, looking for something to catch. Alert and on the move. Brent for Jamie. You gonna go ahead? Thanks, Bernie. Cheers, guys. Brent. I'm just trying to get him here onto this side so that he can help us keep track of her, because I can't cross this drainage system. Oh, watch out there, Viam. Poor Viam's been playing dodge the branch. We've got to really hope she stays on this side. So wonderful to see Karula after an extended period of absence. 2 leopards in one afternoon. It's not a bad way to continue one's afternoon. She's seen something.
How many people are doing it? I think there's still 3 vehicles as well. But
She's seen something.
I can't be absolutely sure.
Hold on.
It's quite quick here at the moment.
There she goes. Let's just get round the other side of the termite mound. I think she spotted something. We're going to have to stop the vehicle here. There she goes. She's just dived into the drainage system. Let's just wait and see. We'll have to listen now. Where did she go? I'm almost certain that she was hunting something, or she's decided to duck into this drainage system. I'm trying to get a hold of Brent to tell him to go to the other side of it, because we can't get around it. And hopefully he'll be able to help us out there. Come on, Karula. Very thick here, and obviously we want to be very, very careful, which is why I stopped there for a moment just to listen, to make sure that we don't have any impact on her hunt, either for her or for the prey animals. You okay there, Viam? And welcome back to Rachel. This is Rachel's very first time seeing the Queen of Djuma. Well, Rachel, I hope that we managed to get her in her full glory. We're going to have to be really careful here, Rachel. Look at her body language. That stealth that a leopard is absolutely famous for. She's hunting something on the other side of this drainage system. And I don't know what it is, I can't see. But I'm just going to wait and listen, because we don't want to have a negative impact on what's going on. She's going forward back towards Gowrie Main. Brent for Jamie. Brent is out on tracking team to help us out. Have you got her there, Viam? She's there. And now, unfortunately, we're just going to have to wait here. She's hunting there. She's hunting, she's stalking something that side. Yeah, straight through there. Towards Gowrie Main. Yeah. You got her?
Bernie for Candace.
Well done.
Yeah, I was standing by Candace.
They managed to spot her for us.
Bernie, if possible, are you able to...
We've got her still.
I'm standing by here by Slim Down.
Okay. Hi guys. Sorry guys, we're just going to get past here. You got her again? Yep.
I suspect.
Okay, let's go back a bit. I'm just going to wait for the vehicles to move around to the other side. Just listen to the alarm calls.
Yeah, I said just come up.
There's some
come up
Franklin.
Burns Road to the east, and you'll see my vehicle just off the road, and I'm just waiting here to see if she pops up.
The Franklins have picked up on her.
Thanks, Benny.
It looks like last visual she was going straight towards Gowrie Main. There go the Franklins. And that is the end of her hunt. Her hunt has been definitely halted by the alarm calls of the Franklins, so immediately the Inyala on edge looking to see what's upset them. As you can see, driving through here would be suicide. And Doodles raises a good point, which I think has been a concern for some people, understandably, which is that Doodles would be nervous driving around in the bush with all of the small cubs because they are so camouflaged. And that is, you raise a very, very important point that we should actually address. And that is, first of all, we're exceptionally careful where we drive. And second of all, I wonder if we can get round this side. I don't think so. You think there's a spot, Vim? From a year back. Vim thinks he remembers a spot from a year back. Here we go. Let's give it a go. So Doodles raises a good point. The leopard cubs are in no way under threat from the movement of our vehicles, and the reason I say that is because at this point, first of all, we know they're not here because we would have seen their tracks somewhere, but let's say we didn't. Let's say we missed something. The leopard cubs would be out and gone faster than you could say boo to them. They'd already be out of our way. There we go. VM's right, you know. VM is spot on. Copy, thanks Bernie. She's going straight towards Gowrie Main. You okay there, VM? Sorry everyone. Oh no, don't cross south, Karula. Dodge the trees that we can't drive over. And welcome to Megan Gaines. Lovely to have you on board. Megan says this is her first time watching and she is so excited. I am too, Megan. I'm excited and also desperately trying to get you this. This is gonna hurt. This is gonna hurt. This is desperate to get you this leopard once again. So we're very careful in terms of where we drive, Doodles. I've never heard of people driving over lion cubs unless they are doing something completely ridiculous, which I mean has never happened here in the Sabi Sand as far as I know. And then to Megan, yes, it's exciting. There's the road, that's what I'm looking for. There's an old hyena den here. Oh, you still on board, VM? Amazing. Not quite sure how. Standing by. She's just crossed into Little Gowrie. There were 3 of us. Unfortunately, everybody, it seems as though Karula, like Tingana, wasn't planning on playing ball with us today, and he has decided to cross into Little Gowrie. Let's see if we can't get one last view of her. And now there's lots of different vehicles. We're just going to stop here and let one of them come out. Oh, my apologies to Megan and to Rachel, for whom this was the first time meeting the Queen of Djuma. Thanks. Thank you. just see if we can't get one last view. She might come back.
Yeah, standing by.
Let's look for her.
Well, she's crossed south into Cheetah. Okay.
Apparently she was still visible. Let's just look carefully. How's it, guys? Good, thanks. How are you? Can you guys, do you know where she is? Okay, perfect. Thank you. Cheers, thank you. Tracks going across. Let's just sit here. She might not be gone for good. I can hear the babbler's alarm calling at her. They're going... Okay, I can see exactly where she may be. Do you see in there, Viam? They're at the marula tree with the babblers. Oh, with the wood hoopers as well. I think they're alarm calling at her. That's exactly where she disappeared. Let's not go anywhere just yet. Let's not count our chickens before they've hatched or count the leopards that left their property before they've left. She might come back to us. Come on, Karula.
Crossing to Velvet from Cheetah Lane.
Come back and say goodbye. This is, I think, my last drive of this work cycle. I think I'm on leave tomorrow. It depends, though. I'm not entirely sure if I've got the morning off or not, so I may or may not be on the sunrise safari. But it would be nice to have a Karula sighting. Or it has been nice to have a Karula sighting to say goodbye for now. For now. You got it? Well done, Viam. Oh. Are they mobbing her? I think they are, you know. Let's try reposition. Wait, where? Let me just try and work out exactly where that is. Yeah, I think she's being mobbed by the wood hoopoes, which is relatively unusual. You don't often see them frantically trying to... Amazing. That's a new one for me. I don't think I've ever seen a wood hoopoo bomb a leopard. Okay, I've memorized where she is. Let's try repositioning a little bit. She's just behind that termite mound. Yeah, that one there. And as it starts to get dark, the sun going down, James, of course, will have to leave that magical lion cub sighting in a moment. So let's head across to him so that you can say goodbye to them.
Goodbye. Brian, say goodbye.
Bye.
We're being facetious, everybody. We can sit here for a few more minutes and then we'll... Sometimes I find myself so amusing, Brian. Yes. We can sit here for a few more minutes. We just don't want to be after dark, everyone. And the sun's just dipped below the western horizon there. It will still be up in some parts, but because we're down here in the drainage line, it's going to be quite difficult to get out of here. Ah, it's interesting. Okay, this is quite interesting. So, I'm just listening to the radio. Aubrey has said that he did find a kudu that had been finished by lions not too far from here. I've no doubt that I doubt she ate it on her own, but she was probably with the pride. So, Monique in London, you know that you asked whether she was eating or not. I think she probably helped to finish that kudu, and we had another question about whether or not she'll hunt with the pride at the moment, and the answer is yes, absolutely, sometimes. And clearly last night, I suspect if it was a kudu, I think it's probably highly likely that that kudu was killed by the pride. That is just too spectacular for words. I will have to take another photograph, even though I've taken 786 photographs today. most of which are completely unusable. I'll take another one. Hello Fiona, you say, do I think that lions dream? I do, Fiona. I've seen them, you know, like when dogs dream and they chase things in their dreams, and some of them, we had a little dog called Trubshaw at one stage, God rest his soul, who used to go, yip, 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 in his dreams, and I think I've never heard a lion sort of growling in their sleep, but I've certainly seen them shaking a little, and a little bit of growling or sort of movement that indicates to me that yes, they do in fact dream. What they dream about, Brian, I couldn't tell you. Meat, probably, most of the time.
Meat and running.
Meat and running. And sleeping. They may even dream of sleeping. They do so much sleeping, they probably dream about sleeping. Okay, everybody, it's getting a little bit dark now. And so I think because we're going to have to make quite a lot of noise to get out of here, I think we're going to have to call this quits. Thank you for joining us at the Lions. It's been okay, hasn't it, Brian? It's been quite nice, yes, yeah, very good. Okay, we'll get out of here. We're, of course, being completely sarcastic. It's been an unbelievably wonderful afternoon here with these little lions. We'll make our way out to Buffelshoek Dam, and we'll probably catch up with you there. Until then, see you then. Till then, see you then.
Wonderful.
Wonderful.
Sounds to me that lion sighting was more than quite nice. It was quite lovely. In the meantime, our leopards have been playing games with us this afternoon. How's that tyre looking on the front left there, Viam? Fine. Amazing. That is quite remarkable considering the number of zebra woods that we just drove over. So perhaps we'll awaken to a nice flat tyre at some point. I'm just triple checking that she hasn't decided to come back north. And welcome to Elissa, who is 11 years old from New York. It is so lovely to have you on board with us. Now, Elissa would like to know if we live in this park. And yes, we are that lucky that we get to live in the game reserves that we work in. Now, what happens is, because the nearest sort of city or town is actually really far away, we start really, really early in the morning, before sunrise each and every day. We wouldn't be able to get here in time to start our job. So almost everybody who works on a game reserve, whether it's a hospitality manager, maybe working reception or giving massages to the guests or cooking for the guests, or in our case driving guests around, although what we do is slightly different, then yes, we live on the game reserve itself and we spend a considerable period of time here. And what usually happens, Alyssa, is we have a 6-week work cycle where we work every day, including weekends, and usually twice a day. So you work all day, public holidays, national holidays, weekends as well, and then in return you actually get a 2-week holiday every 6 weeks in order to just get people out so that we don't get cabin fever and start to feel like we're going a little bit crazy, which does happen every now and again. So that's the way we work. It's very different to most normal jobs. So we all live together, we all work together, and we all socialize together, which means we're very close. It's kind of like a family. It's almost exactly like a family, working with a team like this. Whew, things starting to wind down. I'm going to make my way back towards the western boundary of Djuma to see whether or not perhaps the Birmingham boys might decide to come and pay us a visit towards the end of the sunset safari. Now the sun is absolutely glorious this afternoon, or this evening. Unfortunately, let me try and get it so that we get rid of the poles. Yes, there we go. Never mind, Viam's got it. He's done it. Since it has been such a glorious afternoon, let us just sit and enjoy. Actually, for me, my last sunset in the bush for now, because as I answered Alyssa's question, I'm going on my 2-week break, vacation, and I will be back at the end of that, towards the end of August. Beautiful. and Pierre in Australia as we watch the sun go down, and I hope, against hope, that Karula might decide to pop back onto the road. Pierre in Australia would like to know, what do we have a favourite time to present? I have a favourite time to be out in the bush. I don't know if I have necessarily if that equates to my favourite time to present. Oh, I've got sunspots in front of my eyes. I'm trying to look for Karula at the same time. Pierre, my personal favourite time is first thing in the morning as the sun is coming up. Just that moment before dawn, that pre-dawn light, is my favourite time to be out and about in the bush at night. Or, sorry, early in the morning. My second favourite time is this time of evening. You've got this excitement building as the sun starts to go down. You know that the big cats are going to start getting up and moving about. The leopards, the lions, and the hyenas as well. And all of the smaller and more serious creatures. So this is my second favourite time of day. But that, of course, is why we do a sunrise and a sunset safari. It's the two best times to be out in the bush. And you definitely really don't want to be doing a noontime safari in midsummer with temperatures over 40, 45. And I mean, Pierre, you're from Australia, so I'm sure you'll understand what that's like. You will have experienced it in your time. Definitely not something one wants to endure, and actually not something our equipment can endure. And you won't see anything. Everything will be fast asleep or hiding in the shade. We're just going to slowly cruise our way back towards the western boundary. And talking about holiday time, Lissu wants to know whether or not we would use our holiday time to perhaps travel different parts of Africa, or what exactly it is that we would do. Now, this particular holiday time, I'm probably going to go back to Johannesburg just to go and visit my family. You kind of got to weigh up your time and your holidays, and financially as well, in terms of where you can go and how long you can go for. Ideally, I would love to go traveling throughout Africa, and that is what we do occasionally if we can. The last holiday we did, Brent and I went all the way down to the south coast in South Africa. We have been trying to plan perhaps a trip to Botswana at some point, or Namibia, but those are all up in the air. But yes, absolutely, you can go to other parts of Africa, can and do go to other parts of Africa. It's just a matter of trying to divide your time, because of course we spend long weeks and months away from our families, so we have to go back and touch base every now and again. And that is what I will be doing, but never fear, Brent and James will still be here to keep you thoroughly 100% entertained. One thing that feels very strange about this afternoon sunset safari is we have not seen one elephant, which I'm quite disappointed by. Interesting sound coming from underneath the vehicle, isn't there, Viam? The exhaust might be loose. There is a sort of a gentle rattling. I think that's exactly what's happened. I think we've knocked the exhaust loose in our frantic off-roading for Karula. And to Sarah in Cape Town, on the subject of hyena coming out at night, Sarah, we used to see them pretty much every day. We had an active den site with little cubs. We'd go and we'd visit at least once a day. They'd come barreling out, falling over each other. They are absolutely adorable. But unfortunately what they've done is they've decided to move their den site outside of our Traverse area, because of course whilst we have boundaries, I can go on my right hand side, but I can't go into the land on my left hand side because that would be into Little Gowrie. The animals have no such boundaries and would probably laugh at the thought of our boundaries, although of course they have territories themselves. So we can't get there. The last time I saw a hyena was yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, I believe. Wait. No, I wasn't driving yesterday afternoon on the sunset safari, was I? The afternoon before that on the sunset safari with Liam, and we had Tingana up in a tree with a kill and a hyena lying down underneath it, patiently waiting for its opportunity to snatch up the scraps. I think that was the last time I saw a hyena. Lots of tracks every single day, so whilst our hyenas have moved their home, they have not moved away from Djuma. They're still around. They're still up and down each and every night. We hear them occasionally. Hello, Impala. A lovely herd. And of course for them, I don't suppose they feel the same excitement we do as the sun starts to go down. Must be a bit of a nerve-wracking time. There's our little males. Can you believe? These are the same young males that we watched with their wobbly legs taking their first steps around December. They've now got dagger-like horns on the top of their head. Not quite as impressive as a fully grown 4-year-old Impala ram, but impressive when you think how we've watched them change over the months. From the tiniest little spikes sticking out of the top of their head to now sporting what I'm sure they feel is an impressive set of horns. Not just yet, though. And the female lambs are now fully grown, almost indistinguishable from the adults themselves. This year's crop of Impala lambs are now all grown up. And once again, the females, now that the mating season is over, almost all of them will now be pregnant. Unless they are the little ones. I'm trying to see what they're up to. I'm going to roll back, I think, because there's a nice group here. Unless they are last year's babies, the females will mostly be pregnant. So there's about a 95% pregnancy rate of adult females. And of course, not all of those lambs will survive. In fact, a huge amount of them won't. But it's one of the reasons that Impala are so successful as a species in terms of keeping their number up, since everything wants to eat an Impala, except perhaps an adult male lion who might not be bothered. But pretty much every predator wants to eat an Impala. Somebody just did a little kick. And they keep their numbers up by having incredibly successful breeding strategies. I just want to see. I'm hoping he's going to walk out into the open. I'm sure I just saw an Impala with a white spot on his bottom. I'm going to try and work out what it is. Where's he gone now? They're all nibbling away, enjoying the last of their dinner. They are beautiful antelope. There he is, on the left-hand side of your screen. He's hidden now behind the branch, but just have a look at there. He's got something white on him. Huh. I don't know what that is, except perhaps some oxpecker feces. Which is actually, now that I think about it, you don't often see oxpeckers defecate on the animals they sit on. I don't think I've ever seen them do it. I suppose that makes sense. Their hosts wouldn't be terribly tolerant of them if part of the deal involved being defecated on a regular basis, particularly if you're a buffalo and you've got, 10 oxpeckers sitting on your back. Oxpeckers, by the way, are birds, for those of you who are new to the safari. A type of bird that sifts through the animal's fur and picks off all the ticks and parasites. Never thought about that before. But I don't think I've ever seen an oxpecker defecate on its host. Guess it makes sense. We're going to go and search for the male lions. Let's jump over onto the back of James's vehicle and find out how things are working, or what things are happening at Buffelshoek Dam.
We've just gone past Buffelshoek Dam, everybody, where there seemed to be a drinks party going on, so we left there. We didn't hang about. and we've now left. Sorry, I'm just going to quickly get on the radio again. Sorry, go again with that.
I have no lights on me, and my lights are just quite nice for photographs. Is it okay if I stay for a little bit?
Yeah, no, it's absolutely fine. They just mustn't have a light on them, so that's fine as long as you can see them, no problem. So they were just asking there about whether or not they can be in the sighting with the sun down, and it's fine now, as long as there isn't any artificial light on them, so that's fine. So we got out of that sighting, everyone, found that the road was substantially closer than the route we'd taken in. And I mean, we came in through a drainage line over about 70,000 trees. We were attacked by a number of bears on our way in, and we found that the route was actually very easy. So if we go back in there tomorrow morning, it will be a lot easier than it was this afternoon. Now I'm going to make my way onto the Buffelshoek cut line, from whence we can see the last embers of the day over the Drakensberg. Hello, Greg. You say, why do we wear clothes that match the landscape? Are we trying to be stealthy? This is safari guides. Safari guides dress largely for fashion, Greg. They'll tell you they're doing it to stay stealthy and to stay out of the way of so that animals don't see them and that sort of thing. But basically it's become tradition that you wear khaki or green like I'm wearing, or sometimes a grey colour. And yes, if you're on foot it makes a difference because it means that the light doesn't reflect so much. Now this is quite a good colour, but a lot of the khaki that safari guides wear is actually pretty obvious to animals because it's quite light, and that light colour tends to reflect light. So yes, I mean the tradition is that you try and wear something that makes you a little bit camouflaged out here, but it does become largely fashionable, because if you came to a safari lodge and you found your guide in a bright red shirt and orange pants, I don't think you'd think very much of his skills. But in actual fact, sitting in the vehicle here, you could be dressed in just about anything you like, and it would make no difference at all to the animals. On foot it's a bit different, but white and black are the two things, the two colours. If you look around here, you won't see any white, you won't see any black. Completely white or completely black, and so those are actually the two most really obvious colours, other than sort of, I suppose, bright orange you might find quite easily, but you find orange in the leaves, you find orange in the flowers, you find red in the leaves and the flowers. So white and black really the two colors you want to try and avoid if you're out here on a walking safari. If you're in the vehicle, it doesn't really make a huge difference. I've told this story before, but Greg, if you ever come on safari and you go to these safari lodges or into the Kruger and you drive yourself, you'll find people who take safari outfitting very seriously indeed, and you'll find them dressed in all sorts of shall we say, kit that a salesman has been very clever about getting rid of. So you'll find families in matching safari gear. Sometimes we've had people on safari that have these sort of pith helmets that have beekeeping nets over the top of them, because somebody's told them that it's very dangerous for them to be in Africa, that there are mosquitoes and all sorts of biting flies that will savage them unless every piece of their skin is covered. That's always quite amusing to watch. And then people come on safari in boots that you could probably hike Everest quite successfully in. And of course, a pair of slip-slops, if you're on a safari like this, will be perfectly adequate. And as I've said also many times before, the most important thing that you can possibly ever bring on safari is a good pair of binoculars. So if you ever come on safari, Greg, don't worry about the kit that you need. A good pair of binoculars is going to immeasurably improve your safari. Now we're going to go sort of in towards the centre of the property. I know the Karula's crossed out again, but maybe there will be some other kind of leopard activity, or maybe the rest of the pride. Brent is over around there, and I think he's looking for the rest of the pride now. Abra, good question. You say if you come to the Kruger and you drive your own vehicle, you're not allowed to keep your window open, and yet here we are driving around exposed in an open convertible. And can I explain why that is? It's explicable because, well, I'm trained to be here. All the guides around here are trained. In the Kruger National Park, of course, anyone can drive in, and so they err on the side of caution, where you're not allowed to get out of the car. You can drive with your window down, that's fine. You're allowed to drive with your window down, but you can't. The idea is that if you see an animal like a lion or something, you wind your window up. It actually doesn't make a huge difference. But because anyone can go in there, you've got to err on the side of caution. If everybody behaved themselves and everybody drove around in a vehicle like this and they didn't stand up and they didn't get out of the car and they didn't make a noise and they could read animal behavior correctly and make sure that they didn't behave, they didn't behave badly. Sorry, I'm just listening to Brent. What you'll find is that, then it would be fine. But because people are unable to behave themselves and people are not trained, they don't understand animal behavior, and why should they? You'd find that they'd probably antagonize animals and there would be accidents. So that's why. But you could easily drive into the Kruger National Park in an open vehicle like this, and you'd be in no more danger than we are here right now. Let me put some lights on. There we are, Brian. Immeasurable difference to our sight. Yes. I'm just going to call Brent on the radio. Brent, come in. You'll be able to hear him speaking. Brent, can you go again with that last message, please? My microphone is in my head, everybody.
There's line contact calls in the block between Yonder Road and South Back. Yeah, that sounds closer to number 1.
Okay, copy. I'm coming down Central. I'll drive Nyala Road South.
Copy.
So he says there, you heard him there saying there are line contact calls on Nyala Road South. That's not too far from where we are now. It's not too far from where Aubrey had found the kudu carcass, which I'm sure was eaten by the lionesses of the Nkuhuma Pride last night. While we see if we can get in there and see if we can find something, let's go to Jamie and get an update from her.
We are on the western boundary of Djuma between Arathusa and Djuma, and unfortunately there is a little bit of a lineup now for those lions in terms of people wanting to go and see them, and I don't want to take that opportunity away from them since they haven't had lions on in that area for a really long time, so their guests haven't had a chance to listen to the amazing experience that we enjoyed 2 days ago with a male lion roaring right next to the vehicle. So we're just calmly lurking. Basically, we are lurking on the western boundary because if the lions do decide to come across in this direction, then we'll be able to follow them and stick with them if they carry on to the east, and they probably will. A good chance they're going to start heading back towards their lady friends. That's our plan for the last few moments of the sunset safari, and if it doesn't happen, and that's okay too. There's plenty of nocturnal creatures to hopefully keep us occupied. And it's a really beautiful, balmy winter's evening. It's really, truly lovely out here. Now, Sarah's asked an interesting question. She's a new viewer, and it's lovely to have you on board, Sarah. Now, Sarah's wondering about what would happen in a situation if an untamed lion came right up to the vehicle. What would be our first response? None of our lions are actually tamed, but I know what you're saying. If an unhabituated lion, a lion that's not used to vehicles, it's a tricky one. A lion that is not used to vehicles is going to run away. If it approaches you in a situation, it's probably habituated, and then if it does approach you, it's probably habituated, it's probably okay. In a very, very unusual situation where for some reason you've got, maybe it's a weakened lion that's looking at you as if you might be something edible, and I'm talking, your chances of this happening is probably less than a plane crash, if not even more really, it's hugely, hugely unlikely. I think my first response, if I had an aggressive lion response to my vehicle or to my passengers on my vehicle, would be to probably make a noise that animal's not familiar with and then gauge its reaction from there. So it would be a whack on the side of the door, or even a metallic tap, just tapping my fingernails on the side of the door. And then I'd gauge my response from there. I'd probably be aiming to get out of there as quickly as possible. If it's showing signs, it would be such an unusual response, such a rare incident, that I think my response would probably be to try and get us out of it and into safety. And even with all of the power of acceleration of our vehicle, we'd have to have a good head start to do so. So an interesting question. It's not something, fortunately, I've ever had to deal with. As I said, it's hugely unlikely. Even walking during the day, how are we going to manage this? Hello, little Duiker. Oh. I think this is the male that we had the other morning on the sunrise safari. Oh, no, it's not. His horns are a little bit too big. A lovely male Duiker. And what's nice as a comparison here is if you have a look at his horns, in the females and the young males, they have a mohawk of hair that grows up from the center of their head, meant to imitate horns. In the adult males, with the long horns, they don't have that anymore. It's completely disappeared. And that tells us almost instantly exactly why they have that mohawk. Because then it's clearly to act as a mock horn to deter predators. It doesn't really work, but it is a very interesting physiological adaptation, or adaptation is actually the word. Nibbling away, enjoying the last of his dinner. So an interesting little observation. The same applies to warthog. Baby warthog have incredibly fluffy cheeks. They've got white fur that extends out on the side of their faces. And that, again, is meant to fool animals into thinking that they're more dangerous than they actually are. The same goes for the pearl-spotted owlet with his eyes on the back of his head. Fake eyes on the back of his head. Also meant to be an intimidation factor. And it's fascinating that all of these animals have evolved these funny little methods of looking scarier than they actually are or bigger than they actually are. Yet it doesn't really work in terms of intimidating predators. It might intimidate another male, definitely, or a rival, but intimidating predators doesn't really work. So it's an interesting evolutionary battle between the different techniques of prey versus predators. I was talking about lions on foot. Lions on foot during the day, absolutely fine. They have thousands of years of evolution telling them that we are the hunters and they are the prey. Lions at night, totally different experience. And you want to be home and safe and not on foot as it starts to get dark. Let's go across to James, talking about it getting dark, and find out what his plans are for the evening.
My plans for the evening, everybody, are to go and, have a fine dinner somewhere, probably at a restaurant. What do you think, Brian? Possibly on the King's Road.
Ooh, yes,
Yeah, that'll be very nice. After which we'll go to a gentle. What else can we do this evening, Brian? After we've had our dinner, maybe a pleasant pub with leather seats and cigars. Yes. I'm obviously being totally ridiculous, everybody. Captain Tampo, you want to know if there's a fireside chat today? There is not. We're not having a fireside chat this evening. I'm not sure when the next one will be, probably next week. It just depends. It's a fairly random arrangement. It depends on how much is going on and how much time we have to put together the clips and that sort of thing. So no fireside chat today, Cat. Just a few more minutes left of this incredible drive we've had. A very, very special Sunday afternoon. Now we just came down here. Brent said that you heard him say that he heard lions contact calling somewhere around here. We haven't picked anything up. I think they're probably further off towards the east there in some thick block. Some thick bush. We're not going to try and find them now unless they come up onto the road. Ah. Right. Now, Andrew, while you've asked your question, over there is a red Impala. You say, why are there no animals with green fur? I think for a few reasons. First of all, that colour, although it's very obvious to us, as Brian pointed out to me, is not obvious to an animal that sees not in colour. Because the animals out here that are colourblind see, Brian, in?
Greens and blues.
So they see in greens and blues, and that red colour is very difficult to see then. So although obvious to us that green and red juxtaposed against itself, or against each other, is very easy for our eyes to see, for the predators which see in greens and blues, that isn't easy to see. So that's one of the reasons. One of the other reasons is that the green pigment is actually, I think, it's very, very seldom found in nature, but in plants. You find it in birds, but only a few birds have got actual green pigment. So the lories, the turacos, they are one of the only birds that has, in fact, they may be the only bird that has a green pigment. The rest of them combine blue and yellow to make green, or they have special reflective chambers in amongst various crystals of, I think, melanin and what's the keratin, and it reflects green light, but there is no green pigment. So green pigment is actually extremely rare. And so that's two reasons why animals don't have green fur. I think it would be almost impossible for them to make that green fur. But that colour that Impala is actually a lot more camouflaged than you would think it is, if you happen to be a predator that only sees in greens and blues. Alrighty, on we go. No, Rusty, there's no need to make a roaring noise like that. Now, we're on Twin Dams Road, and wondering if those lions might pop out here, but perhaps one or two. Oh, there's a lovely call, Brian, listen to that. Come on, do it, bird. There we are. And those of you, I know we've had a few people from Johannesburg watching today, Brian and Hannah, just two of you. And you, of course, will be well familiar with the call of the hardy-dar, which Brian is going to do for you now. Brian? There we go. That is the call of the hardy-dar, which you will hear if you live in Johannesburg very early in the morning. Not a very pleasant sound if it happens to be a Saturday or Sunday after a heavy night out. Very nice. Kirsten, sorry, I missed your last communication. Brian was calling like a hardy-dar. Brian, that was excellent. Well done. Good job. You do try and you succeed more often than not. I think there's some people up ahead. Just turn the lights off in case they think that they're on the stage. They're having their sundowners. If you ever come to Africa, everyone, a sundowner at sunset, a very, very pleasant way to while away the evening hours. Not so, Brian? Good evening. Yeah, smile for the TV, everybody. You're now famous. They, of course, now think I'm a total idiot. They're probably not wrong. They come from Jacobin, which is just next to Nkoro, just north of Cheetah Plains, where we spend much time, as you know. And the 6 little Styx lionesses were there, not 6 little lionesses, they're 8 little lion cubs of the Styx pride were there. Nice that they're still alive. They were looking a little bit ropey a little while back. Alright everyone, that's going to be it from Brian, Tumbleweed and I. We're going to say goodbye to you. We'll see you tomorrow at, 6 o'clock in the morning. Hopefully with some more lions and leopards. Until then, stay safe and happy, and thank you for all your questions and comments today. It's been a joy to share those lions and their cubs with you. Bye-bye.
And so another beautiful evening or afternoon draws to a close, and it's time for us to head for home. And as James always points out, the smell of Amanda's cooking wafting across Djuma He's definitely an attractive prospect to all of us involved. And we'll be heading back home, waiting for the mysteries of the night to sort of unfold themselves, and we'll have to go and explore tomorrow. And oh, Gracie, that's a lovely message that has come through from you. So Gracie is 8 years old. Gracie, I'll miss you too, and I'll miss all of your amazing questions. And I promise you that I will have an amazing time and come back with lots of different stories to tell you, lots of exciting stories to tell you. But thank you for that. That made my day and definitely put a smile on my face for this evening. A lovely message coming through from one very special little lady. First thing I'm going to do is eat some takeaway Chinese food, and then maybe some sushi. Sushi is definitely not something that you get out here in the bush, at least not sushi that you should trust. It's a bit of a risky business, that. I'm just going to drop my lights as we come through here. Wendy's got a whole variety of light switches. There's lots and lots of kudu and impala standing off in the darkness. And at this point we don't put any lights on them, just so that we don't interfere with their night vision. Just like if I were to shine a torch in your eyes, you'd find yourself blinking away purple spots. And the same thing, not quite so pronounced, because of course they're better at seeing in the dark. They've got a more reflective layer. But that's basically what shining spotlights on diurnal animals does to them, so we don't do it. So as not to make them more vulnerable to any of the predators moving about out here. And perhaps I'll go on a, well, depends on if I'm off tomorrow morning or not, but I might go on a tracking team. Pleasure, Donna. Donna would like me to do a hardy-dar impression. So for Donna in the last minute, wah, 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 wah. Because, you know, hardy-dars are really afraid of heights, which is why they screech all the time when they fly. Wah! That's what I was always taught, and it still makes me giggle to this day. Right, and on that absurd note, it has come time for us to say a big farewell. So thank you to Wim for his fantastic camera work, as well as to Kirsty and to Jerry in Final Control. And most of all, a very big thank you to all of you joining us across the globe. And I'm thanking you for not just tonight and this afternoon's sunset safari, but also for the past 7 or so weeks that I've had the pleasure of your company, and I look forward to seeing you again in 2 weeks' time. But for now, it's time to say goodbye. I'll miss you all in the bush, and I'll see you again very soon. Bye-bye, everybody.